tuned in to Life with Colonel Lee. I'm Colonel Lee, and we just made a little project to try to help add more oxygen to our pond. I saw some dead fish, some bass, and some perch. The catfish have not been affected yet, but when you have about 15 fish float up to the top in about 2 days span, that tells me oxygen levels are getting pretty low on this pond. So, all right, we'll sit back, take a look at how we made this little contraption.
Life with Colonel Lee.
Hi, welcome to Life with Colonel Lee. I'm Colonel Lee, and we are doing a little project today. We have an issue with our small pond. It's getting very low on oxygen. Lack of predators, growing population of fish. I've been feeding the fish, so it's been very hot, and when I do fill the pond, it's unoxygenated water from the well, so we got to try to incorporate some more oxygen into our pond. So we got about 15 fish that are dead, some bass and some perch. It's not affecting the catfish yet. They're pretty hardy, so I'm not sure how many fish we got in there. I know we've got probably 300 to 400 catfish, and man, the bass that came up is a pretty good sized bass. Kind of disappointing, so there may be more in there. Let me show you what we got here. Okay, so what I have here is just a submersible water pump. So we have our intake with a little filter. Okay. Basically, we're just going to pump the water through, suck it out here, and I'm making a little kind of a diffuser with some PVC pipe, 3/4 inch, schedule 20, and we got a little brass fitting in the end so we can screw into our outlet side here. So that'll screw into there. And we have a 5-gallon bucket, drilled some holes, and we have a bag of pea gravel. I'll pour the pea gravel into the bucket, and then I'm going to cut out a notch here. We're going to fill it to about this level, and then set my submersible part inside there, and then put a little bit of gravel around it to kind of hold it into place. This is just to keep fish, debris, coming in contact with that inlet, and we don't want it to clog up. So, and then we have a lid that's going to go on top, and then we'll have to I'm going to put this in some kind of quiet box because it does make a lot of noise, and we're going to stage it near the edge of the pond. Let's go take a look at the pond real quick. And then of course I'll have to run an electrical cord to power the pump. Basically, we're going to take the water that's in the pond, suck it through that system, and run it out the diffuser, which is going to be perched somewhere near the edge of the water. That way it can get oxygen and go back into the water. So we have lots of turtles in here as well. Let's see, there's some of the fish over there. So I counted a total of 15 all along the banks there. It's very sad indeed. Okay, so basically trying to increase oxygen, we're making a little aerator type of deal. So it's not really air that's coming out through it, it's just water. But water, you know, spraying up into the air and then back into the water, it will put some oxygen back into the water. At some point I'm going to have to get an aerator. They're just kind of expensive, and I want to do a little bit more research before I commit to, you know, a big purchase like that. Some of the more average cost has been about $300 to $400. I don't know if I just want to spend that much money. There might be something else I can do, maybe with a compressor or something that I have. So anyway, we're just going to drill some holes, maybe a few holes down this end, maybe some here, maybe a little bit in the center. We don't want to drill too many holes because we want to be able to have pressure for it to jet out a little bit, and we don't want to restrict the flow either, because I don't know how well this pump is gonna be able to pump all that water. If there's too much pressure, it may bog that down some. So let's drill some holes in here. And then we can test this on the garden hose to see how well it sprays. And then once we get everything set up and we're ready to deploy this in the pond, I'll do a little test run and see how well that does. We may have to put more holes. I want to start off with less holes because it's easier to add more holes than it is to fill that up. We'd have to remake this whole thing. All right. All right, so we got to drill a hole in the bucket, put this through, and then we'll put this primary filter back on it. So we just have hole drilling tools, Milwaukee brand, for wood application, but it'll work on plastic PVC as well. So just make sure we got a right size here. Put it right above the rock level. We're probably going to get some gravel that's going to spill out a little bit. We may try to fill in that hole with some kind of foam spray. I got the section hooked up to the hose. You can turn it on, just kind of check it out. That's just a very little pressure. I just barely turned it on. I want to kind of simulate that pump, because it's probably not going to pump much more than that. Okay, so for this part, we're going to use another 5-gallon bucket. Just place it down in there. A wasp. Okay. And then what we're going to do, we're going to drill a hole in the lid for the electrical cord, and we'll see where we need to put the placement of the hoses. We may come out the top as well on that. All right, we've got some breather hose in here. Make sure we get good airflow from any direction. So we got our buckets set up. All right. And when we get down there, I'll show you what we've done. But the pond is a couple hundred feet away from the nearest electrical outlet. So before I go out and buy electrical line or make sure I have enough, I'm just bringing my little 3500 watt generator and a little extension cord, just so we can test this out and before we go any further. All right, let's go hook it up. All right, that pump works pretty good. It's spraying that water pretty good. So the pump is kind of noisy. That's why I want to put it in that bucket. Keep stuff off of it. Kind of help protect it, but definitely hooks down on the noise. Keeps the noise down. Alright, so I don't have this bucket anchored down anywhere just yet, and I'm going to do that next. But our intake section, which is in that bucket, I have a rope tied to the handle, and then I hammered this. This is about 3 foot long. Tied it off there, and then the export in where the water's coming out. That is a 3/4 inch conduit with a little 90-degree coupling on it. And then I've got a hose clamp, got them clamped together to hold that in place. So that'll stay right there. Now my water level is a little low. So I kind of put this bucket to where when I start filling it, when the water gets to about that back side of that lid, that's about the shut-off point. If I get any fuller than that, it starts creeping out the back that way. I need to bank this off a little bit. And then it starts hitting the overflow tank culverts, which flows downward. So everything flows from that way this way when you get big rains. So hopefully this is going to add some oxygen into the water. I might readjust that pole and get it a little lower on the banks. It'll hit it in the water. This is what I want right here. I want that water in the air and hitting back onto the water. We're creating some oxygen here. So we're a dying little pond that's full of fish. Catfish, the other freshwater fish are dying. So my next step is to get all the dead fish out. Those decaying in here is going to decrease the oxygen. Adios.